Hello, welcome to yesterday's Airlines. It feels like it has been quite a while since I did a review ranking video of a recent announcement set, and I guess it has been a little while, and that's because Chinese New Year obviously has just been and gone, which has a massive impact on the production of diecast models in general, and a lot of other stuff, I imagine, since they're all made in China. So it's almost a surprise and a present, I guess, that there are even any February announcements from NG at all. But the majority, if not all of these models, are ones that have been announced as future releases anyway. Now, I know that the future release thing is a little bit rubbish and it's got quite a lot of criticism. But hey, you give people information, they complain. You don't give them information, they complain. Basically, you're always going to have someone who wants to complain. And I'm a big complainer, so hey, I'm not criticizing people for complaining necessarily. But it is what it is. There are future release announcements. I don't like them very much. I ignore them here at the channel, and I just talk about the models as they come up in the monthly announcement sets. Anyway, there are, I think, 19 models this month from NG. The previous 2 months of NG releases have been pretty poor. In fact, very poor, really. And NG has been gaining a lot of criticism for their release choices. And, you know, I'm a relatively moderate voice, I would say, in that, because I see quite a lot of very harsh criticism aimed at NG. And I think a lot of it obviously comes from people being disappointed. They really like NG models, but they're not getting what they want. But I assume that some people are, or NG wouldn't be making a lot of these releases. It's not necessarily you or me all the time. But even though NG have been producing a lot of pretty tedious material in recent times, there's always something, because they're quite big sets. So there's bound to be something that interests you, surely, unless you collect a really, really narrow set of airliners, which I know maybe a lot of people do, but, you know, it's not exactly surprising if you collect a very narrow set that you're not going to get models you want all that regularly. Anyway, I don't want to make it sound like I'm apologising for NG. There's no TriStars in this set. There's no 757s in this set. There's no 747 SPs in this set. There's a lot of stuff here that I don't like. But at the same time, there's still some really high quality models. And even though NG have had some missteps in recent times, I still think overall they're producing the best product in the scale. And if NG weren't here, then things would be looking pretty bad, because I don't know if you saw those pictures of that Emirates A300 that Gemini just released, but it's just typical, you know, laziness. Find a really old rubbish mold, chuck some rolling gears on it, which are way oversized, stick some aerials on it, bugging out onto the market with better printing. If that's what you want from 400 scale in 2024, you're aiming pretty low. At least NG are producing high quality efforts. And I have to say, some of the criticism I see of what NG produce is just way out there. I know there's been, for example, a lot of talk about the size of the cockpit windows on these NG 747-8s. They're no bigger than anyone else's, I would say. They probably are too big, I agree. It's hardly an enormous issue, and some of the hyperbole I've seen on the topic is quite humorous. Still, what have we got in this set? Well, let's find out and go through these 19 models. But obviously, before I do that, subscribe to the channel and chuck a like on the video. Thank you very much, everyone. And don't forget, as always, to also follow me on Instagram at @YesAirlines and check me out on Facebook. And don't forget the website, because the website has the majority of the content that I produce on it. Really appreciate everyone who supports my work. Thank you very much. But let's get on and see what NG are going to be putting our way in the next month or two with these February announcements. So as I said, a lot of these models, if not all of them, are models that have been pre-announced as future releases. Also, following on the continuing trend, which has not been particularly classic, even though this is meant to be the Euro Classics, a lot of these are reminiscent, if not direct copies of existing releases, and that's not great. But I'm hoping that after the Chinese New Year, in the next month or two, things will start kicking up and we'll be getting some new molds and some more interesting releases. But hey, we'll see. I don't control what NG do. Anyway, today we're going to start with an A350. It is the only A350 this month, and it's a little bit unusual in the sense that it's exactly the same as one they released last month. It's Sichuan Airlines. It's B32AG. It's exactly the same release. The only difference here is that they're going to be releasing this in this new Ultimate Collection packaging. If you didn't see the review I did of one of the Ultimate Collection releases recently, Air China A330, then please check that out. I really like the packaging. I like the extra quality that's been put in the box. I like the stand. I like the little sheet. It's a really nice package together, but to be honest, it doesn't add enough to make me buy models specifically for it. And at the end of the day, I'm buying the model, not the box. So I actually got this model from last month. Does it bother me that they're producing an Ultimate Collection version of it? No, not really. But either way, it's a workhorse, isn't it? Because it is the same as the one last month. Now, one of the molds that NG has that no one else really does is the A318. And they've produced already a single Frontier Airlines release, N807FR, with the Cougar on the tail. Now we've got another pair of Frontier announcements. We've got N801FR with the Grizzly Bear and N802FR with Montana the Elk. So these are pretty unique. No one else is making or has made Frontier A318s. That's really cool. I like the mold a lot, and I liked the look of the release they put out. Now, there has been, again, quite a lot of talk of the issues with the height of the window line on the NG A318s and 20s and 21s recently. And I definitely think there is an issue there, but it's nowhere near as big an issue as people make out. And I did a little bit of a comparison with the real thing, and frankly the window line is in the right place. The issue is really, I think, that the windows are a little small, and certainly the emergency exit over the wing is way too small, and that makes it look a little odd. It would be less obvious if the fuselage wing fairing there was a little bit more obviously printed around. I don't think it's that big an issue, and to be honest, I liked the look of the release they put out. So it's an issue, but again, your options for A320s, what else are you going to be getting? You're going to be getting the Gemini or jcwings, which are nowhere near as good. You're getting the Phoenix ones, that's probably worse. So there's not a lot that's meeting the same quality as the NG molds. Pandas are, but don't get many of those. Aero Classics ones, they're okay, and they've just modified the nose gear somehow, but it didn't look particularly impressive to me. Anyway, regardless, these two releases are both really nice. I like the scheme. I think the Frontier with huge letters just fits on an A318. Looks really nice. Love the animal logos. It's really cool. I'm going to put both these up into Supersonic. Don't collect Frontier Airlines. Way too new. But these look really cool. Really like these releases. And I'm sure there'll be more because it looks like they're going to go through and release most of the fleet of A318s. Next up, we've got a pair of TU154s. Both are in the colours of China Southwest Airlines. You've got B2617 and B2618. The difference between these two is that 17 has got the long Chinese-only titles, and 18 has got both Chinese and English titles. Otherwise, they're effectively the same. There has been some movement in China Southwest 154s in recent years. YU Models produced a version using the Aero Classics mold. And yeah, I got that model. It looks okay, but the mold is old. Aero Classics capability to produce it is limited. It didn't look great. There's also been a very recent release by Phoenix. 2615 was the reg, and that one's got the longer Chinese-only titles on it, which hadn't been made before. Again, it was a nice model. It's a good choice, but at the same time, you know what you're getting when you get a Phoenix 154. They're fine, but they're not great. They're not only marginally better than the Aero Classics version because of the undercarriage of the mold is effectively the same. So they're both okay, but also not particularly exciting. And I think I'll probably end up getting both of these, and I'll replace the one I've got with the new NG version. Certainly the NG T154 is substantially superior to any other on the market, even though the wings don't perhaps have the anhedral that you would like. The rest of it is so much better that it really knocks it out of the park. There's no competition. Doesn't mean I don't get the Phoenix ones, but I know what I'm buying when I do buy those. So I'm going to put both these into supersonic as well. Two nice releases, and really do need to see more 154s from NG models. Haven't seen anywhere near enough of these. Next up is another Chinese airline. It's Yuniao Airlines. It's a Dreamliner 7879. This one's B209R. It's going to come in the Ultimate Collection packaging. So that should be really nice. I believe it is wearing the scheme Genshin scheme, which I think is related to Genshin Impact, which is an open world action role-playing game. Sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. I have no interest in this game whatsoever. It looks like it's the usual over-styled anime, big eyes, odd proportions kind of thing. Lots of girls wearing not a lot, but hey, the scheme actually looks surprisingly nice, and there are pictures of this model that NG have released on to the market, at least in China, which show the finished product. It looks nice. The scheme looks quite good, and despite the fact it's based on some cartoony anime, it doesn't really impact the look of it. So it's nice. I'm pretty sure I'll get it because, again, it fits into my collection criteria, and I do like it. I'd like it more if these weren't anime characters, I admit. But what can I do? It still looks quite nice. So I'm going to put this one into High Flyer. Okie doke. So, where are we moving to next? We are moving to pretty bland models. So we got a pair of 787-8s. These are both blanks, basically, but they've got the different engine options associated with them. One's got the General Electric engines, one's got the rollers. NG are producing a lot more blank models, but often, as in this case, for airliners that don't really lend themselves that much to customization, because I would have thought the majority of 787-8s have been made by someone at some point. I mean, do you really need to go and make one which is likely to have been made in 400 scale? I think they'd be much better off producing like blank TriStars and SPs, you know, for where you could make liveries that people aren't likely to make, or hybrids. I mean, there aren't many livery combinations for a 787-8. And there are a lot more unusual ones for something like an SP, and often lots of, you know, hybrid schemes. So yeah, I don't really understand why they're releasing blanks or modern molds like this. But you know, maybe people are interested in making their own custom airlines. Pan Am 787-8s. No, Sam likes those. So yeah, I'm just going to use them workhorse. They do what they sound. They don't do any harm, but they don't. Don't excite. That's what I would think. And on the subject of not exciting, the next model is a Level A330 ECNRG. Now, I think I've moaned about Level before. It's a nothing of an airline with a nothing livery and a nothing name. And worse, NG have already made a Level A330 200 in exactly the same scheme as this. So, yeah, this one's really, really not interesting me. I'm going to put this one actually into Gas Guzzler because it's exactly the same as the previous release, and I really don't like the airline. So, just a little bit of bias against Level there from me. The next model is also effectively a re-repeat, and I could put this one in Gas Guzzler, but I think I'll put this one into Workhorse. Don't need to talk about it much. Shenzhen Airlines, Series 300 A330, the reg is B302 Echo. They've done B303 November, exactly the same. Otherwise, I've already owned the Panda Models version of this, which is very nice. This one really serves no purpose. I'll put it to Workhorse, but yeah, for those who don't have any interest in Chinese airlines, you could Gas Guzzle this one too, frankly. It'll look lovely, but why are they making it? And in the subject of why are they making it, Qatar Airways. I think I know now. They must have some kind of commercial agreement with Qatar Airways for this many Qatar aircraft to come out. But this one is 777-300 ER A7 BAC. It's wearing the retro scheme. This has been made already twice before. It's been made by Phoenix and it's been made by jcwings. The Phoenix version came out in 2022, and I imagine that the JC one is more recent, even if it was announced in 2022, because I doubt it came out when it was announced. They both look pretty good as releases go. And what's also interesting about this one is that when you look at the NG colour scheme, the colours look really off. So I don't know if that's going to translate across the model, but they look so pink, these Qatar colours on the artwork here. And if they print them like that, they'll be way, way, way off what they're supposed to be. I don't really care, because I don't really care about the model. I'm going to workhorse it, but, you know, be careful and keep an eye out what happens with the colours. I wouldn't pre-order this one if I were you. The second half of this release set that I'm talking about now is actually a lot less interesting than the first half, I have to admit. And I think, again, this was another model that I kind of almost talked about last month. They made an Aeromexico 737-700 last month, and they haven't actually released it yet. And I think I moaned at the time and said, hey, look, they are going to end up making loads of these because there are tons of special schemes worn by Aeromexico 737-700s. And lo and behold, next month we get a second one. This one's wearing this 100 years special scheme, which is nicer than the CDMX colours from last month, but still, I'm just not interested. This is the kind of special scheme which is like it's just really some stickers stuck on the ordinary livery. It's not like that gentian scheme on the Geminijets earlier, so it's really not very interesting at all. And unless you're already a die-hard Aeromexico collector, I just don't see people flooding out to get this model, so I'm going to workhorse it again. So we're putting up quite a chunk of workhorse models now. Started well with some supersonics, but really kind of falling off a little bit. And the next two models, you know, how excited you are by those will really depend on A, how much you like 747-8s, and B, how much the cockpit windows on these NG 747-8s upset you. For me, they don't upset me particularly, but I'm not overly excited by 747-8s in general. And these two are a pair of Lufthansas, both with the same reg actually, DAB Yankee Mike. One of them is in the old colours, and one of them has the old colours but with 5-star Hansa on it. Now, there are quite a few Lufthansa 747-8s they can make, and I'm sure they're going to put out a lot of these. Looking back through, obviously these have been made before, though the 5-star Hansa one has only been made by Gemini. So there's room there for a second one, certainly. And if I'm looking at old scheme Lufthansa 747-8s, yeah, Phoenix made a couple, Gemini made a couple. There aren't hundreds of them floating around though. So new mold, it's better than the JC Gemini mold, it's better than the Phoenix mold. So yeah, I guess these will probably do well. People like the Lufthansa 747s. I'll put these in the high flyer, not on my radar, but I can see the potential here. However, in probably 3 or 4 months when I keep on seeing Lufthansa 747-8s being released, I probably will see less potential. Okay, we've just got 5 models to talk about now, and they're all 737 Maxes. First up is another blank. It's a blank of the Max 7 mold. They released the first Max 7 last month. It was the Southwest Airlines. Everyone moaned about the colours, probably correctly, but even so. This is the second release, just blank. They can't do a lot more with the Max 7 because the thing isn't in service, hasn't got many orders anyway. So yeah, I can understand why they're doing this, but again, it's not exactly exciting, and another aircraft that you can't produce a lot of customs that are actually even vaguely realistic. So yeah, I'll put this one in workhorse 2. Next up, Qatar Airways, man. Qatar Airways. And these are 2 releases that are completely superfluous. So now we've got another pair of Max 8s, Qatar Airways, A7 BS Echo and A7 BS H, and that registration is quite entertaining me for the BS component. Because that's kind of how I feel about these releases. NG have already made a perfectly nice Qatar Max. I made BS Charlie. So does Gemini and Phoenix. They both made the same reg, though not as nicely. Is the world crying out 5? I would be surprised. And this is kind of where I think they must have some kind of commercial agreement with Qatar, because this is just crazy otherwise. I don't want to go over it. Again, as always, they'll look lovely, but they're completely pointless. Yeah, I'm going to guzzle these two as well. Yeah, disappointing to see them. But I guess, yeah, if they split the production line, doesn't really harm, blah, blah, blah. But just wasting my time talking about them. And the next model is also a re-release, but one actually I'd forgotten was released. Now, I didn't get the original one. Now I'm looking at this and going, oh, maybe I should get this. And it's a Lion Air Max 9. PK Lima Romeo Foxtrot is the reg. They made Lima Romeo India, again, not that long ago, but I did pick it up, and maybe I will now pick this up because I've made some more space for Indonesian airliners in my collection. So I've got some room for it now. Looks really nice, the old release, and in fact you can still get the old release. This new one will be fine as well, but again, it's the same model. There's not a lot to discuss. I'll workhorse this one because obviously it doesn't offend me like the Qatars do. And the last model is perhaps a highlight for many people. It is the first use of the new Max 10 mold. It is United Airlines N27753. Wearing the quite nice existing colours of United. Aircraft hasn't been delivered because obviously Boeing has ongoing troubles certifying these later Max models. But I believe the aircraft is painted, it's part of the flying program and so on and so forth, so it does exist. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be really, really nice, and I'd be surprised if this wasn't pretty popular with our American friends. I think it'll be a nice model. The scheme looks really nice. And it's the first Max 10, as I say, I think it made at all in the scale, let alone the first United one. So, yeah, it hasn't perhaps been getting the credit this model deserves. I'm going to put this one up in supersonic. Don't see any reason not to. So it's looking like it'll be a great release. And that brings us to the end of this look through these 19 models. Now, for some reason, I'm not so upset by these models as I was by the previous 2 months' releases. And maybe that's just because it's been a while since I reported on any release announcements. There is definitely some rubbish in here. And I think I hopefully have illustrated where I think models aren't worth releasing that they put out. But there's also stuff in here which is good and interesting and pretty worthy, like the Frontiers, like those China Southwest 154s, you know, and several other models too. There's definitely 3 or 4 models which I want to pick up, and you know, if they're putting out more models, then and there's more models I want to buy, and that's just it's not necessarily good for my wallet. So I would like these to be TriStars. I would like these to be MD-80s. You know, I'd like these to be classics. I'd like them to be SPs, but you know, I can only report on what is being made, and these models, some of them are going to be really good and are valuable collections, or additions, should I say, to 400 scale as a whole. So there's definitely still a lot of good stuff being made by NG, even though it isn't the stuff that necessarily a lot of people want, and even I personally want some of the time. So my view is it's an okay month. It's not what I would hope the rest of the year looks like, and I hope that NG release more classics and more variety of molds, and we start seeing some of the new molds coming to production. I think we will, but for now, this is what they're putting out, and as I say, there are 4 or 5 models here that I want to buy, so it's not all bad. That's my view on it. Always keen to hear what you think, so drop some comments, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. That's it from yesterday's Airlines. Bye-bye.